Alright, my friends, so this is the fourth episode, I think, of the Devil Fruit course you have bought. Thanks again. And in today's episode, we'll finish this visual script right here. So, I hope that you have watched the last episode, so you know how all of these things right here work. What we basically have to do is that we have to take the reference to this Devil Fruit remote event. And now, since we are fire clienting this remote event right here, we can react to the fire client by referring to the remote event and then typing on client event. Notice how we have written on client event right here and on server event right here. So that is because we are fire clienting to every client, and this on server is because we have fire servered this remote event. All right. So okay, as you can see, we are fire clienting to all clients with this argument. So this is one single table which contains multiple pieces of information. So the first one is what, the second one is who. You guys know what these things are about. So let's check for these information, because you have to know that this visual script will mainly handle our eating animation, okay? But it could be that in any future update that you want to add one more aspect to this tool. I cannot really think of one, but if you want to add one more aspect and you want to handle this on the client, so the visuals on the client, then it is very important that you categorize each task. In our case, we only have one task, so this is a little bit unnecessary, but let's do it anyways, just to practice it. So if arc what equals, now what does it equal? Replicate eat. Replicate eat. Then, and as you can see, this, wait. So when we play this now, come on. Yeah, when we, wait, I forgot to add the output. Attempt to call a, wait, I forgot something, sorry. Add a connect right here, I'm sorry. As you can see, it prints out wants to eat. Now this tells us that this if statement right here has worked, and that we have successfully created a branch for one task. Now, what we want to do next is that we want to create, now we don't actually want to create an animation, so as an instance, because we can just easily go ahead and create this animation instance right here and call this one eating animation. Okay, now let's work on our animation right here. So what you want to do is that you want to go to avatar, then you want to go to rig builder, and then if you're using R6, then add the block rig. If you're using R15, add the block rig as well. I'm gonna use R15 in this case right here. And I'm not a good animator, but I can tell you a few basic things, okay? So you have a timeline right here. As you can see, your animation takes 1 second, so it endures 1 second right here. And at each timestamp, you can do something different. Now, since when we equip the tool, our right hand is involved, our whole right arm is involved while holding the tool. So you hold the tool with your right arm. We want to focus on this one mainly, okay? So we want to create an eating animation. What we want to do is that we want this arm to move towards our head. So let's do that. So this is our start position. Now I can go to this timestamp right here, then rotate the arm as I want to. So when we play this, you see that the arm directly goes to that direction. And I can make the head tilt backwards and then wait a little. And then make the head snap forwards to simulate a bite. So biting animation. Now you may ask, why have I took this? So I've highlighted this. Then I've done Control C to copy this whole thing, this keyframe, and then I pasted it right. So you may ask, okay, so why have you done that? Let me demonstrate you what happens when I delete this. Okay, in this case, it is not that much of a difference, but as you can see, in between this, so in between these two keyframes, the animation pauses. And that is what I wanted to achieve. Now, when I delete this, you see that the head tilts forward and it is not paused. So I wanted the animation to pause within these two keyframes. That's the reason why I've copied and pasted it. So yeah, that's basically it for the animation. Now, make sure that you go to these three dots, go to set animation priority, and then you set your animation priority to movement. So what movement does is that basically only makes those body parts move which you have involved in this animation. In our case, it is the right arm and the head. We have not involved the left arm, we have not involved the legs. And in this case, it means that those body parts which have not been involved, they just adapt to the idling animation. So to be exact, they would adapt to any other animation which is currently playing. But in our case, and in everyone's case, it is going to be the idling animation. Unless you have a customized game where you have no idling animation, you will literally have this animation right here playing. But if you have no idling animation in your game, then you have another problem, okay? So just trust me, set it to movement, and then the rest right here will just adapt to your idling animation, and it will look overall fine. So what you want to do next is that once you're done with your animation, so this is pretty basic, of course. I'm not that good of an animator, but well, it's fine. So I don't have to degrade myself like that. It is a fine animation. So go to those three dots, go to publish to Roblox, and then just give it a random name. Submit. Now, very important, copy this animation ID right here. Go ahead and then select this eating animation instance, paste your animation ID inside of here, and you're good to go. Now let's go back inside of this Devil Fruit Visuals script. Now, remember in the last episode where I've told you that it is very important that you specify who you're doing this to? Now the time has come to see why this is so important. Now, I could go ahead and make this animation right here play on game players, local player character, okay? But if you think about it, who are you referring to by writing out this thing? You're basically referring to the owner of this local script, which is not the player who wants to eat the doll fruit, okay? Instead, you take this and make this your reference point. So who character, arc, who character. Basically the victims, so I don't know how you want to call it, victim, performer, let's call performer. So the performer's character is stored inside of this variable. So arc, who, and who is a player's instance. That's the reason why we can just easily refer to dot character. Now, what we want to do next is that we want to load this animation, and loading animation in this context means that we want to play it. So how can we do that? Create a variable. I'm going to call it L. L stands for loader. And then you have to refer to the character, okay? Now, there is an instance inside of the character called humanoid. And inside of that humanoid, there is another instance called animator. And this animator is your best friend when it comes to loading animations, because now, after you have referred to it, you can do a colon, load animation, and then inside of those brackets, you have to specify which animation you want to load. In this context, or in this case, we want to load this eating animation. So script, which is this script right here, dot eating animation. Now L play, so L is our loader, colon play, and then those open bracket, close bracket stuff right here makes the animation play. Let's check out if this is really the case. As you can see, it is the case. It works fine. Maybe we should do one more improvement to this animation. As you have seen, after the user took the bite, the user just dropped the fruit pretty fast. And let's actually extend this time spent right here. So I don't want the player to drop the fruit that fast after taking a bite. And we are basically just using the same technique as we have right here. Alright? Now, if you have made any improvements to animation, go ahead, publish to ROBLOX, and instead of creating a new animation, you can go to overwrite an existing asset right here on the top left corner. Not on the bottom left corner, I'm sorry. And then just click this animation you have just exported earlier. The animation ID stays the same, so you do not have to copy it. Then you can go ahead and test this out again to see if your improvements have been added to your game right here. Yeah, works fine. And yeah, that's it. Now, one more thing. So, when we want to eat a devil fruit, we equip it, we take a bite, and then the devil fruit disappears, and then we receive the devil fruit, so the devil fruit moves. Okay, so what you understand as receiving the devil fruit moves is not, well, back then it was that that a certain moveset was copied inside of your backpack, and then you were able to use the moves whatsoever. But what really happened is that you had a data store with all of your stats, so your devil fruit, your belly, your ship, your cruise name, whatsoever, and the devil fruit was stored inside of your stat system, inside of your data store. Now, we want to do that as well, but since we have no data store, I'm gonna do the following. I'm gonna take this devil fruit right here, so this reference to this remote event, and I'm gonna do fire server at, not at, overwrite the F stat. Alright. Now, we are fire serving this remote event with the task overwrite the F stat. Now we can go ahead. Wait. Wait. Let's actually put it inside of a table. So we have established the system of using a table as an argument. So let's keep it like that. So let's go ahead. Let's go inside of our devil fruit script. So a script, and then do arg_what task overwrite the F stat. So this is a task and this is a task. So I hope that this is now clear to you why we're using this what for. If you have multiple tasks which are handled within one script, you have to differentiate in between each task. The problem with this one is that we basically only have one task for this script, and that is to replicate the visuals of the devil fruit eat. Now, what is the task of overwrite the F stat? It is basically to overwrite the devil fruit stat, which we cannot do as of now because we have no data store. And the second thing is that we have to delete the tool afterwards. Now, the thing is that we need to find out which devil fruit this guy has eaten. And how can we do that? So instead of relying on the client and doing something like this, okay, so I could have done that, okay, but I have made a Roblox game by myself. Nah, not by myself, but I had a bunch of developers developing with me. But we have made a Roblox game ourselves, okay? And I used to do this a lot in that game, and it led to the death of that game because it was then exploited whatsoever. So I do not recommend you to do this, because you're then relying on the client, and everything what is on the client can be changed by an exploiter. So keep that in mind. What you want to do instead is that you want to give out the task. Okay, so I'll write my df stat, but you leave the server script right here, the responsibility to find out which doll fruit this guy has just eaten. And I'm going to show you a method on how we can find this out without passing any information inside of this fire server right here. So what you want to do is that you want to define a variable for the character, so player character, so the character of that person who has fire server. Now, what you want to do is that you want to look out for a script, for a tool inside of that character. And let me explain you why. Because what happens when you equip a tool? So as you can see, we have this tool right here. I'm now equipping it, and as you can see, it moves inside of the character. And that is basically the way on how we can find out what fruit this guy has eaten. Okay, so to eat the fruit, you have to equip it, and then you have to use it. Means it is inside of your character, and we can use this to our advantage by looking out for an instance of the class tool inside of our character. And if this has been found, then we can refer to its name, and then we have the doll fruit which has been eaten without relying on the client and without taking the risk of having any corrupted data, any corrupted doll fruits whatsoever. Okay, so this is fully safe. This is server-sided. This works fine. Now we have found out what the name of the doll fruit is. We now need to overwrite the stat, but as of now we cannot do that. We are gonna do this later, so do not worry. And what we have to do afterwards is that I'm gonna give it a short time span. I'm gonna delete the tool. So we are deleting the fruit after 0.5 seconds after it has been eaten. Now there is one more thing we have to take care of. As you can see, there is a problem with this fire server. So I've told you that this local script is in possession of every player. And what does that mean? I'm sorry. So it means that every player is going through this code. Now, that is okay to go through this code because we have specified who our performer is, and we are loading the animation upon that performer. But down here, we are fire servering as the player who possesses this local script. And right here, so when we say character and when we say player, we have the player instance of the person of the player who has fire servered, and this is literally anyone who possesses the script. So what do we have to do? We have to make sure that only the performer is able to execute this piece of code. And how can we do that? Of course, we can do this by checking if game players local player equals arg who. So if the current player who possesses the script is also the player who has fire served earlier and who is the performer, then we want this part right here to be executed. Now, there is one more little, let's call it little problem to this thing. Exploiters are able to spoof this. So they can go ahead and pretend that their local player is also the performer. Then they're able to, fire server this. Now, why little problem? Because they then have, well, it literally makes no difference because the player instance right here, when they spoof themselves to be the performer, this player instance right here is the performer's player instance. Now, this performer already has the right to override this DF, okay? So it is not something which is not rightful. It is rightful, and in this case, it has no benefit to the exploiter because the exploiter doesn't receive the devil fruit in any sort. What the exploiter does is that he or she helps the performer to become the devil fruit. So to push this process right here forward. Okay, and the thing is, once this thing has been fire servered, remember we are checking if there is a tool. Once this thing has been fire servered, after 0.5 seconds, and once the tool was found, the tool is being destroyed. Means, once you fire server again, this check will fail, and this part right here won't be executed then. You know? So, this is fine. Okay? So, it is not really a problem, but I just wanted to inform you about this, so that you guys do not ask yourselves, yeah, so he just said that we cannot rely on the client, but you know, so we are relying on the client a little bit at this part right here. But yeah, I'll just explain to you why this is okay at this point. All right, guys. So with that being said, thanks for watching. We're gonna deal with the fruit model in the next episode. See ya.